Welcome to the 573 Posicast. Today we're talking to superwoman and serial entrepreneur Carisa Stark.
Hi, my name is Carisa Stark. I am owner of Mary Jane Bourbon and Smokehouse in downtown Cape Girardeau, Missouri.
I'm AJ, and Carisa is going to tell us all about what makes her tick and about the upcoming Bourbon on Broadway event.
I grew up in Perryville, Missouri, and very, very close to all of my family, very large family. Mary Jane Buckheit and Clarence Buckheit were my grandparents. My parents, Rick and Sherry, raised me and my two brothers in Tanglewood as kids. And Tanglewood was a country neighborhood, so we had block parties and, we had pizza parties with our neighbors, and we rode four-wheelers together. It was a really great time, it was in the 80s, and we rode our bikes all night long till the sun went down. And when mom and dad, went on vacation or needed to have some alone time, we'd go spend time in Old Appleton at Grandma Mary Jane's, swimming in the Apple Creek, jumping off the bridge, just really enjoying, childhood to its fullest. Grandma used to love to take us on car rides, and she'd roll down all the windows, and me and my brothers, my cousins, Jamie and Kyle, would sing Shoe Fly Pie and slap our hands on the top of the car as we're riding down the highway. And it was such great memories. She always read to us. We'd run up to her parents' house, my great-grandpa Gilbert, and great-grandma Olivia Amschler's house, and we'd play under the willow tree, and we played tiddlywinks and all kinds of games. And Grandma always had a garden out back, so we'd go out back and help her pick tomatoes and pick horseradish root and help her shave the horseradish. We love spicy things, strong German family, so we were always putting a smear of horseradish on crackers and cheese and anything that we could. And it's funny, that's where our grandpa's highball comes from at Mary Jane Burgers and Brew. So Grandpa always used a bourbon. I remember Seagram 7, could be different. Grapefruit soda like Squirt, some Tom Collins mix, little cherry juice to sweeten it up, and a cherry. So, not sure if I had one before I was 21 or not, nor would I admit it, but they're delicious and I love them to this day. And I love it when Grandma Mary Jane comes in to enjoy a highball as well. But we grew up going to church every week. Grandma always sang in the choir at the Apple Creek Church in Appleton, or Apple Creek, pardon me, St. Joseph Church in Apple Creek. And every once in a while we get to sit upstairs in the choir and listen to her sing while church was going on. But I enjoyed my childhood. It was a really great time.
Tell us all about your upbringing in Perryville.
I'm so excited to bring craft beer to Perryville, Missouri from the time that I'd spent in Colorado. I really fell in love with the brewery scene out there. And the community welcomed me with open arms, and it was a really exciting time. I was young, I was energetic, and life was so good. And fast forward to 2 to 3 years after that, my executive chef and I decided to open a nano brewery right next door. And it was such a fun adventure because little did we know that it was illegal to brew beer in Perry County, Missouri, because prohibition laws had never been changed. So we went to the city, we changed the ordinances. So we are the first brewery to open in Perry County, Missouri since prohibition. And we have a beautiful little tasting room, seats about 40 people. It's cozy, comfortable, really chill, gorgeous wood-fired pizza oven. Chef Matt has made some amazing recipes. So with the combination of the craft beer and, wood-fired pizzas, it's been phenomenal. We'll be 6 years old this year. And about 3 years ago, we decided to start a new venture in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, called Mary Jane Bourbon and Smokehouse. So we feel like we kind of had the burger and beer thing down. We had the West Coast, Neapolitan style wood-fired pies, and we're making our own beer now, so we had that down. And Such a cool trend right now is the love of bourbon and the knowledge, the vast variety, the history of bourbon is so intriguing. And so we were really excited to bring smoked meats, a really unique menu that you can't get anywhere else in Southeast Missouri. Chef Matt has hit it out of the park again with some wonderful recipes. We partnered with Old Hickory Pits, and we use all their smokers in all of our restaurants. Fantastic company. And when it comes to the bourbon, when we built the back bar, we want it to be like a piece of art, a showpiece. And so the building that we're in is also another gorgeous historic building, was a dry cleaners since the 50s, was originally built as part of an Etzel dealership. And we needed to really change the makeup of it in the middle to make sure that we could showcase our bourbon collection. So we cut a hole in the middle of the floor, in the second floor, and we took our collection from the first floor all the way up to the ceiling of the second floor, and showcasing, our travels through Louisville and our barrel picks and Japanese whiskey collections, Irish whiskey collections, a huge Scotch collection as well. And it's been a wild success. Cape Girardeau as well was so familiar with us in Perryville and was so excited to have us here. Not gonna lie, a little disappointed that we weren't bringing burgers and brew here, but once they got to taste the flavors that we had and be a part of, our bourbon collection and to sample those and have bourbon flights and bring their families here to celebrate, they've been so welcoming and it's been wonderful. So we like to showcase our collection every year in a celebration called Bourbon on Broadway. And to paint a picture, it's outdoors, it's live Irish music, over 40 different bourbons to choose from for your sampling. We have food samples outside, street food style, cocktail tables, giveaways. It's just a really great time. And what's cool about it is everyone that comes to Bourbon on Broadway, they're all the same like-minded people. They have a palate for, rich flavors. They love to meet other people that are also as passionate about, food and drinks as they are. And it's a lot of fun watching everybody mingle and to capture that, in an evening. And we're so excited to have our third Bourbon on Broadway this year on April 9th.
Tell us about the promo video you guys made.
So this was a really fun opportunity. So Puncher's Chance is a bourbon that was introduced, and we got to go down into Louisville, Kentucky, go into the distillery, choose the style of bourbon that we wanted, and they bottled it for us and labeled it for us. Puncher's Chance partnered with Bruce Buffer to do an awesome promo video for their bourbon, and he did a personalized video for us. So he's an iconic announcer for UFC, and his big catchphrase is "It's time." And he's very gregarious with his words and his voice. And it was such a fun promo video to see, and it was just really exciting. We ended up writing a few of our own fun little punchy words for him, and he was such a great sport and he went along with it, and I just love the video. I just think it's a good time, and I really think it embodies the party that we're going to be having at Bourbon on Broadway.
Let's watch it.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Bourbon on Broadway is back in downtown Cape Girardeau at Mary Jane Bourbon and Smokehouse. And the main event of the evening will be Puncher's Chance Mary Jane Barrel Select. Not only will you get to taste bourbon samples until your heart is content, there will also be live music by the talented Reeves Rovers. It's time! Buy early! This event will sell out as in years past. Join us for a winner of an evening outdoors with bourbon, beer, and live music at the famous Bourbon on Broadway, April 9th from 6 to 9 p.m. We look forward to making boozy and mind-blowing memories.
So I left high school, started college at Jefferson College to go into television and video production. And I only lasted about 6 months. I'm not a school person. I never have been. Not book smart. Math is not my gig whatsoever. So that didn't quite work out for me. So the reason I did television video production, though, is because I love to entertain people. I want to be on stage, and that goes so hand in hand with, you know, hospitality. And at the same time, though, I also, you know, I had to make a living for my family, and I wasn't quite sure how to do that. So I went to the American School of Real Estate. I'd bought my first house when I was 18, and I sold it a year and a half later, and I just was really intrigued by the whole process and how you can make money so quickly buying and selling after you improve properties. I finished school, I took my test, and then I failed. And I know a lot of people have to take that test multiple times, but to me, it just, I don't know, I just felt it in my gut, my intuition, just decided not to take it again. And so that's whenever I started waiting tables, and I realized that I absolutely loved the art of serving people. And it wasn't about taking their order. It wasn't about all of the details that go into dining out at a restaurant. It was about like touching people's hearts. You know, whenever you make an impact on someone and at the end of service, they hug you, they thank you. I've seen tears, I've seen laughter from my guests that I've served, and it's such a wonderful feeling. And I've met so many amazing people as well from all over the world in the industry, working at, you know, different restaurants, working in different states and different cities. And it's just something that came really natural to me. And it genuinely hurts my heart when someone isn't kind to another. And it's something I don't quite comprehend. And I want to do my best part to be able to touch others' lives.
Tell us about what you do with your free time.
I've always grown up in the outdoors, camping, going fishing on the creek. It's always something that I just have really, really enjoyed. So as a young adult, I also took, you know, as a young mom, I always took my kids camping, tent camping. When we moved out to Colorado, of course, skiing was a #1 thing that I loved to do. And it was always on my dream list to have a Jeep and go four-wheeling in the mountains. So made that dream come true. And it's been a passion ever since, a hobby. So Jeeped in Moab, I've Jeeped on Hatteras Island, all over Colorado. It's just something that brings people together too as well. So whenever I meet other people that are Jeepers, we just all have that same attitude of life is good, live it to the fullest, adventure, find the biggest rock you can climb. If you turn over, you'll just flip right back over. And I love that lifestyle. I have graduated from tent camping to a teardrop camper, now to an RV. So no more roughing it, but we're taking the RV all over the country. We've been to about 17 states in it now in the past year. And we're getting ready to go to Talladega, park right in the infield. Cars will be zooming around us, which I guess is a little redneck, but honestly, I don't care. It's a good time. Our friends are joining us. My family's joining us. And it's a pastime that is so natural to me. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. So it's really important for quality of life to have that life-work balance for me. I haven't always done that for myself. I've always really pushed myself into work because I love to work. I really enjoy my craft and what I do. But what I found is whenever I traveled, or I took a Jeep trip out to Moab, or I took a camping trip, it really like released a brand new energy in me, so that whenever I was ready to come back to work, my creative spirit was more alive. I also had experienced other restaurants on my travel that were inspiring to me to bring ideas back to what I do. And there was a little bit of, old Catholic guilt rearing its ugly head when I did take extra time off. But now that I've been on my own for 9 years, I make it a priority because it makes me a better boss lady, it makes me a better person, and it makes me healthier. So I find time to make it happen, and everyone should. They really, really should.
Do you have any advice for any young entrepreneurs in the area?
Any type of business you're in, typically you are dealing with people, and there's always going to be issues, problems that arise. You're always going to feel the necessary idea that you have to be there at all times. No one can do it without you. But it's so important that you develop teams to be problem solvers. And anytime an issue arises, empower them to get to the root cause and, what are the factors that made this issue arise? And there is absolutely a solution for everything. And the first solution that you implement, it may not be the fix, but that's okay. It's really like getting your team and yourself to work together to find those solutions and implement them and move on from it. So case in point, we decided to do this interview today, and the ice storm has wrecked our roof. So of course they're scheduled for the exact same day we're doing this interview, but we're gonna roll with it. We're gonna make the best of it, and here's the story.
There you go.
First of all, turn the news off. It's not all true. What I've found traveling through 2020 and 2021 is my fears of different areas that I visited, that they would be shut down, because that's what I've heard on the news and it's what I've seen, but it's absolutely not true. Independent businesses are thriving. People and communities want to see independent business be successful, and they are supporting all of us like no time that I've ever seen. And it's really a beautiful thing. So if you have an entrepreneurial heart, an idea, go for it. It can be done. Never be afraid of failure. And if you fail, you just start right back over and you do it again. It's possible. So whenever I first came to Perryville and I decided to migrate the food truck into brick and mortar, I looked at a building that was formerly in my family. They had a bar there, and it was on the downtown square. And it was for sale. And I just thought it would be great, especially because the nostalgia of the family history and everything. Smaller building. To make a long story short, I made an offer. They didn't accept the offer. And it was such a small amount that we're haggling over, but it almost was a sign immediately to me that this was not meant to be. So I looked across the square, and there was a huge abandoned block of 4 buildings to be exact. And I found out that the city was planning on demolishing the entire block. It had been in very, very bad disrepair. The first 2 buildings were built in 1894, and then the additional buildings were built in the early 1900s. And I found out that a guy that I knew, Jesse Oakes, had owned the building. He'd bought it 9 months earlier on the town square at the last ditch effort, before they demolished these. So I gave him a call and asked him what his plans were with the building. And he had a ton of ideas. And he said, but he just did not have time to do it. And I asked if I could buy them from him. So he told me the price, and I couldn't afford it. I was brand new. I didn't have the resources to be able to afford it. So I asked him if I could buy the first 2 buildings. And what I fell in love with those buildings, as soon as you walked in, that gorgeous tin ceiling. It's the only thing that I saw. Everything else I've exposed. But I just knew immediately it was the absolute perfect building. The upstairs had been drilled shut, so I actually bought the building without ever seeing the upstairs. So I only bought the first 2 buildings because it's all I could afford, you know, being a new entrepreneur. And when we closed across the street at the title company, the first thing we did is I asked my dad to go get the drill out, take that plywood off the upstairs. I want to see what the upstairs looks like. And it was wild. Roof was caved in. It had been raining in for many, many years. Some critters, some squirrels. But there's one piece of furniture that I found. It was an old wardrobe. And it was really, really badly damaged. But you can now see that in the restaurant because we partially restored it and got it downstairs. But I shouldn't say we restored it. I didn't. I gave it away because I had no use for an old piece of furniture that I didn't know how to fix. So we rolled it across the street to another business. And when they decided to move out of town, I asked if I could have it back. And they rolled it right back over where it's at Mary Jane and its forever home. But that's how I found the building. And about 9 months later, I realized we needed an event venue and we needed some more space. And Chef Matt and I had been talking more and more about opening a brewery. So called Jesse Oaks once again, and I was able to buy the rest of the block. Took about 5 years to rehab the entire downstairs. We had to remove a freight elevator from the early 1900s. I still have the wheels that are the size of a vehicle. Had to remove another elevator. And the next 3 years after that, I decided to rehab the upstairs to have vacation rentals, lofts, so that people could come and stay in downtown Perryville and spend a weekend of it. And we ended up doing fully furnished lofts, all high-end, repurposed as much building materials as possible. And they rent by the month as well for long-term leases. But have them on Airbnb, and I have 10 of them, and they've been phenomenally successful. And in addition to that, since we are booked every week now, I've bought another historic building behind Mary Jane Burgers and Brew called the Atrium. It was a dentist office from the 40s, and I actually still have a jar of teeth in the building from the dentist office. And it will be Perryville's first boutique hotel coming next year.
Wow. Well, tell us about that. What are your ideas for that?
So, a boutique hotel, by definition, is a smaller space, less than 100 rooms, and it has very personal touches, higher end amenities, unique spaces to each room. So this building is very unique as to when you walk into the front door, it opens into an atrium. So we're gonna do a glass ceiling. It cuts down to where you go upstairs and then you go downstairs. I may or may not be opening another little pop-up kitchen bar in the atrium. And then I'll be building 7 small apartments. And they're gonna have a very like bohemian feel to them, lots of deep, rich greens and ferns and tapestries and all these things that make you feel warm and cozy. We're gonna partner with Villainous Grounds and have their coffee service in every room. We're partnering with a local honey company called High Five. We're going to be using Heckley's local bread. So you have these beautiful welcome baskets, a farmer's basket per se of local goodies that you get to enjoy while you're visiting at friends and family in Perryville. And I'm so excited about it. The outside, I want it to look like Nashville. We're painting it all black. I'm going to have these gorgeous, gigantic floral murals painted on it by Kinsey Wolt. And when you're there, you're not gonna feel like you're in rural America. You're gonna feel like you are in a trendy downtown city, but you have the hospitality and the kindness of small town.
Tell us about the Smokehouse.
At Mary Jane Bourbon and Smokehouse, Chef Matt has designed an amazing menu of smoked meats. One of his favorite dishes is a half-smoked chicken. His signature chicken rub and brines that he makes for this dish are so great. It's so tender, so juicy, perfect combination of smoke flavor. Side dishes to accompany it are some of our favorites: our crispy sprouts, our collard greens, our street corn. But I never want to be mistaken to be a barbecue joint. Don't get me wrong, I love barbecue joints, but we want to be doing something a little bit more unique here. You know, brisket fajitas and having Hawaiian smoked pork skewers with pineapple and hoisin glaze, jasmine rice. Just really putting a twist on smoked meats, because really there's so many great barbecue places in Cape Girardeau. They don't need another barbecue place, and so that's why we're a smokehouse. And it's all about taking, you know, the art of smoking meat and turning it into, you know, a culinary plate that you haven't had before, and you can't like quite put your finger on what all the ingredients are, but you know that it's absolutely delicious. My kids, I don't think ever want to be in the restaurant business, just because they saw mom was gone every weekend. I missed weddings, I missed holidays. But my daughter actually started on the food truck with me, and so did my son Colton. My daughter decided she wanted to be a bartender, something she was super passionate about. So she went to bartending school, and she wanted to be just like Lisa Marie Joyce on Bar Rescue. It's one of her heroes. She is one of her heroes. And she's been operating Mary Jane Burgers and Brew ever since. My son Colton definitely did not want to be in the restaurant industry. So he went to UMSL. He got his degree in accounting, and he's incredibly smart. And after sitting in an office atmosphere after college, he realized he really missed the hustle and bustle and we'll call it organized chaos of the restaurant industry. So he asked me if he could come on board, and I said absolutely. And we've been in talks, you know, with the kids, you know, where they want to take this, where they want to take Mary Jane, where they want to take the brand name, what's the next step. And I'm going to empower them to take it to the next level. I think it's always great to be open to new ideas and trends, and also a younger generation. You know, I'm old school restaurateur. I do things the way we did it 25 years ago still. It's the only way that I know how, but adapting with hospitality and growing it into a new level, I think is going to be a very, very exciting venture for them. And so you'll see a lot of things happening, I'm sure, over the next 10 years. My businesses has been vital, and I didn't even realize that in the beginning. I always thought I could do everything on my own, but the fact is I can't do anything on my own. And the wonderful thing about family is there's that trust and loyalty, and I know that they have my best interests at heart because they love me, you know, unconditionally, and that's what family's for. So my dad has been there from day one as a huge supporter. He literally can fix anything. So he is constantly tightening screws, building things, fixing things, and making sure everything is top notch. Like I said earlier, I'm not a math person, so he goes to the bank for me and does deposits and things like that. And it's such a huge help for me. My mom is there every day. She's watering plants. She's such an amazing gardener. She helps take care of, you know, some of the things that we can't get to every day, general, you know, dusting and tidying up. And she's a graphic artist, so she makes a lot of promotional posters for me, or she'll print pictures for me and frame them. And then along with my son Colton and my daughter Devin actually doing operations management in the restaurant, it's just a great feeling to know that I can sit back a little bit and relax, and they've got my back. And the rest of my family, where they don't work in the restaurant, but they are always there, you know, patronizing the restaurant and visiting and bringing Grandma Mary Jane in and having drinks and having a good time. And I've had several of my nieces and nephews work for me, and it's just so awesome watching them grow up, you know, not just as family, but also in the workplace environment, and seeing their core values and their strong work ethics that I know came from generations of our family, you know, hundreds of years ago. So it's really great to be a part of that.
Just one more time, tell us about that Bourbon on Broadway event.
On April 9th, it's going to be an evening event, outdoors, live music by Reeves Rovers. They are a foot stomping good time. It's loud, it's fun, it's Irish. We'll have a ton of distributors here, vendors, distilleries that will be sampling out their bourbons. Chef Matt has made a really great street food menu to sample out on the patio as well. It's going to be lit up by lights. We sell out every year. We limit it to 150 people, and tickets are selling so fast. So make sure that you buy your ticket right away. But it's really a magical experience. The glow of the lights, the sound of the music, the clinking of glasses, the laughter. It's a really fun experience to be a part of.
Thanks for being positive. And remember, get out there.